What's up, everybody? My name is Loon. I'm a mixer, recording engineer, and artist from the greater Boston area, and welcome back to my channel for part 3 of my production breakdown of the song Whiplash by Olivia Cloud. Today we're taking a look at the vocal tracks, seeing what purposes they have in the arrangement, and I also want to talk a little bit about my philosophies for recording vocals. Like I just said, this video is part of a mini-series that I'm doing on this channel where I go over all of the aspects of this song, Whiplash's production. You can listen to Whiplash on the Whiplash EP, which was released on February 16th on all streaming platforms under the artist name Olivia Cloud. It'll also be linked in the description. While you're down there, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and if you have any questions throughout any point in this video, please leave a comment. I'd be happy to respond to them. Without further ado, let's hop into Pro Tools. So right now, what we're looking at in Pro Tools is basically all of the different vocal tracks that are in the part of the song. You'll see they sort of move linearly through the session down, and that's just to make sure that I had individual volume controls over each of the sections. You'll also notice that we get progressively more tracks as we go through the song, and that's to match the dynamics of this song as it grows throughout the arrangement. Having said that, even though the individual levels might be different, a lot of the processing is almost exactly the same across all of the vocal tracks. So we recorded all of these vocal parts using the Slate Digital ML1 modeling microphone. So because of that, the first plugin in the chain has to be the virtual mix rack from Slate Digital, which includes the processing block for the virtual microphone. I only own the Classic Tubes pack, which includes a couple of different microphones, all of the ones shown here, that are all based off of, as you guessed it, classic tube condensers. So for all the vocal tracks on this song, I used the FG269 model, which is based off of the Neumann 269 tube condenser. It's honestly been long enough since the tracking session that I don't particularly remember why I picked this one, but for each of the songs on the EP, the first thing we did when vocal tracking was we recorded basically a scratch take of a bunch of the vocals and played it through all of the different mic models until we settled on the one that we thought fit the vibe of the song the best. It's very similar to how you would just test out different microphones if you had a bunch of them in front of you, but in this case we're just doing it all in the box, and this is the one that we settled on. Outside of that, in this channel strip, there's this Neve preamp emulation, which I'm just doing for a little bit of like Neve color, and then finally we have this sort of saturator thing that includes a thickness and a shimmer control, which is basically low-end warmth, and some high-end boost crispiness. It's good stuff. If you turn it up a little bit, it sounds great. Next on the channel strip, we have a channel strip plugin. This is the SSL channel strip, and this came up a lot in the drum mixing video, which is the video that came before this. It'll be linked in the description if you want to go and watch that. But this is my go-to channel strip plugin. I personally really like the way that the SSL stuff sounds, and I find the EQ really easy to work with. So in this case, I'm cutting some low mids around 450 hertz, and that's just to get rid of some of the like boxy, nasally stuff that can come in with some vocalists. I just had to do a little bit here. I have a very slight high-end boost at around 7.5K, and that's a shelf, so that's that and everything on top of that, just to get a bit of a brighter sound. And then finally, I have a high-pass filter here in terms of EQ. That's going into a compressor, which has a 5.2 to 1 ratio. You know, if you're looking at this while it's playing, the vocals are really very barely hitting the compressor. I'm barely going above 3 decibels of gain reduction. And that's super intentional. I just wanted to cut off the top of it just a little bit. And that is all going into the de-esser. This is just the stock one that comes with Pro Tools. On this track, actually, it's not doing much of anything. You can see the range is at 0, so it's actually not cutting anything out. This is a holdover from other tracks where I am actually using the de-esser for things. Additionally, on the sends, all of the vocals are going to a reverb. It's just one reverb for all of the vocal tracks, and it is, shockingly, the Pro Tools Deverb. This is a really like solid reverb. I have a couple other ones that I frequent for different things. The FabFilter Pro R is another personal favorite of mine, but really for any reverb that you don't need to be a super precise sound, I find Deverb to be really good. It's solid. It sounds good almost out of the box. I mean, I did some messing with it, but still. On some of these channel strips, I also have this plugin, Bittersweet V3. This is made by Flux. When I got it, this was a free plugin. I assume it's still free, and it is a transient shaper. I just used it to take some of the harshness out of a few of these harmonies here. I have transient shapers in various other plugins now, most notably like Neutron has a transient shaper in it. This one is like a one-trick pony. It does the thing. I tend to reach for this more because it's just faster. It's super transparent also. You can barely hear it, but you can definitely feel it. On all of the vocal buses, I have an LA2A. Now normally a compressor like this would just go straight on the vocal, but I'm using these in a slightly different way. This LA2A is more so to control the dynamics when I have these sections where I have like 6 or 7 vocal tracks going at the same time, just to make sure that they're all one solid sound. It's just far easier to mix, I find, if I apply a very small amount of compression to it. So if we look, for instance, at the chorus here. And I'll explain why I say 7 decibels of gain reduction actually isn't that much. Because I've seen at various points online that you shouldn't compress your vocal more than 4 decibels, which I think is a god-awful piece of advice, and you should not listen to anyone who says you should never do this in audio. But in particular, I take issue with it here because do the vocals sound bad to you? Argument made. But it's just a matter of you being able to hear them in the context of a really busy mix. That is all of the processing that is on any of the tracks in terms of plugins. But a major contributor to the vocal sound, and this is not actually something that I can really show you super well because unfortunately it's hidden inside of consolidated files, but all of the editing that I went through on all of these vocal tracks to make them sound the way that they do. And that started with breath editing and sibilance editing. Now, I know there are de-essers on a lot of these tracks, but a de-esser can only do so much. And something that I was finding was that, especially where I was layering multiple vocal parts together, I was getting a lot of sibilances, and it was not sounding good. So what I did on this song, and actually on some of the other songs on the EP, is I went through and manually edited out a lot of the sibilance information, and I did that with clip gain, which is the commonly accepted technique for doing that in Pro Tools, or any DAW, where you find the sibilance, cut around it, reduce the gain on it, and then crossfade on both sides. It's a little tedious, but the results really do speak for themselves, as the S's in this song are really pretty well controlled. And then the other editing that went into this was Melodyne. Let's look at one of these. So this is the edited vocal track. And this includes pitch corrected information. And what you'll notice is that not all of these pitches are pitch corrected. Like for instance, this one here is like basically in between 2 notes. And that was very intentional, and it was very intentional to not over-edit these vocals. At the end of the day, this record, even though it includes aspects of like folk and pop, it kind of is a rock record in a lot of ways. And this song especially is very rocky, especially near the end, and it would not have worked sonically to have a really finely tuned vocal sound. Instead, I used my ears and listened to points where, especially where there were multiple vocals stacked together, that the vocals sounded out of tune with each other. And those are the moments that I fixed with pitch correction. This song is kind of the outlier on that because there are just so many vocal layers that a lot of these parts are pretty pitch quantized. Again, a lot of the record isn't, and if you listen to, for instance, Villain, which is the second track on the EP, there's no auto-tune on that song at all, which hopefully should also dispel any rumors that Olivia can't sing. Obviously she can, she sounds great. It's really me being nitpicky about getting the vocals to sit better together. Just to be clear, tuning does make them sit better in a mix. They're just taking up a more narrow sonic space, and it's easier to place them. But yeah, there's auto-tune on this. maybe if you don't want to know how sausages are made, don't watch a video about making sausages. The last thing I want to touch on really are these outro vocals, because this is easily the most epic part of this song. So these are all unison parts and they're all doing the same thing, but all of them together make this massive vocal wall of sound. And to have a really epic end, because this is the last song on the EP, I wanted to go out with a bang. And so all of these tracks together sound like this.
Life's too short for regret.
What I particularly wanted to point out about these is that these takes get progressively less edited as they go on. And that's something super important when doing doubles. Obviously, when you have doubles, you want them to sound close to the original. Especially you want the rhythm to be on, because if the rhythm's not on, it's gonna sound loose. But these are progressively less pitch accurate as we go down, and that's what creates the larger sound. If they were all exactly the same pitch and all exactly the same rhythm, there'd be a point where you're not really adding anything. And then the final thing that really sets the outro over the edge in terms of vocals are these that I'm calling the Whiplash oohs. And so this is actually just a stereo bounce of 12 vocal tracks from the demo that we did of this song. It's just me and Olivia in an apartment through a Sennheiser like onstage vocal microphone, not under studio conditions, and all together it sounds like this. To me, it's this kind of layering of vocal parts that can really set a song apart. Because in the context of the whole mix, this is almost just like a pad effect. There aren't any synths in this song, so this is kind of replacing the need for that if you listen in the background. And so I particularly wanted to highlight that track for that reason. That's all for this video. I know that was a lot of information and maybe a lot to get through. Please leave your questions down in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. While you're down there, again, hit subscribe if you have not already, and the little bell icon so that you can come back for the last part in this series where I'm going to talk about the overall mixing and the mastering chain on this song. Leave a like if you liked it. Most importantly, go stream the Whiplash EP. Link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.